What up, assholes? Here we are. Happy Wednesday. We're gonna have a fucking time. Not one normally to do this sort of stuff, right? Oh, why is my network all gig? I don't know. Okay. I'm glitching out apparently, but whatever. Alright. So check this shit out. We're gonna have a whole ass talk. A whole ass talk. Okay? I gotta show off some lights over here and over here. See this? That? Hey! I look better in low lighting. Off. You know I don't like being on camera, so we're just gonna try to shake this shit off. Okay. So, we had a whole little debate and discussion, okay, on the fucking Twitter sphere about dudes being not cool, right? Like, you know. Alright. Some people just don't know. Okay. Start from the beginning. So, me ramble for a couple years now, right? I'm not like your typical woman, right? Not like, oh, I'm not like other girls, right? And I used to be that girl, but I'm not like that anymore. But, okay, I am not your typical woman, right? Look at me. I'm not conventionally attractive, okay? I am currently am of stature, okay? So, again, not physically, conventionally physically attractive. I like conventionally female things, like things that weren't normally female, okay? And we've even talked before about how, like, a long ass time ago, starting in like the 5th grade, I would bind, right? Because I had like way early on, right? But I had like issues because, you know, I had daddy issues and pedo issues and whatnot, right? So I did not want to be attractive to men, so I would find ways to cut my hair real short, you know, did the binding thing. It was like, I'll just be a boy, right? I didn't do the whole thing, but there were definitely times when I presented as a boy and went out of my way to make myself look unattractive because I did not like the attention, okay? I was a young girl, Texas, single mom, full-on target for, like, I was literally a pedo target, okay? It was crazy. I am well-adjusted considering the things that happened, okay? But that's a little bit of the backstory, right? But I've never been, like, conventionally like your typical chick, okay? And I've had my moments where, because it wasn't like that, it was like that a long time, right? When I was young. And then when I got older, okay, and then definitely after, like, I got married and stuff, right? Like, I really wanted to be, like, had this protection around me, even though I didn't really understand that at the time, but that's why. But, like, I went out of my way, too. I would get my hair done, like, professionally a little bit. I would get my nails done. I would try to learn how to put on makeup, which I still haven't learned, and I'm okay with that, right? George, say hi, George. But I really, like, totally leaned into that whole womanhood thing, right? And I really enjoyed it. But, like, that was, like, the first time in my life where, you know, right? And to really lean into femininity and all that stuff, right? I don't know if those are the right words or not, but, you know, that's... Got a little allergies, don't mind me. But that's what I was trying to do, right? And I really did, man. I was, you know, I was kind of hot there for a second. I even lost, like, dude, I lost hella weight. And it was weird, too. There's a little side note here. But it was super weird because there was a minute there where, like, I lost so much weight. Like, a lot of weight, right? I hadn't been that small since, like, middle school. And I, like, literally was a size 6. And I had never in my adult life been like that, right? So the, like, I mean, like, heads turning and everything, because, you know, I didn't have all these wrinkles and shit and the saggy and whatnot. And I'm, like, again, I'm not, like, super hot or anything or, you know, conventionally attractive, but, like, I clean up pretty good, okay? Redo some hair and whatnot, and I like wore clothes and, you know, fancy clothes, not just like band t-shirts and whatnot. Anyway, there was a time when that was happening, and I was like, whoa. And it really kind of, you know, going through my... I'm trying to find a good way to lay this shit out, right? Going through my journey of being a woman, right? I learned some stuff in between that stuff, right? Because, you know, later on I went on to be a DV advocate, right? And that is, I found myself like super immersed in stuff that was like, that I was taught academically about stuff that I'd already known, you know, in here, right? Because, like, we know as women that, like, okay, this shit ain't, you know, this shit ain't equal, this shit ain't fair. I mean, life isn't fair, but, like, the extra stuff about being a girl, right? Like, the subjugation and the domination and the control and the power and all that, right? And I was like, oh, so all that shit clicked when I started learning about it, right? And I was like, okay, that makes perfect sense. And I kind of got a little ball busty, not even gonna lie, because in my head at the time, it wasn't about, oh, we're totally gonna stick it to these dudes, because I've always loved dudes. Always loved. Back up, way back in the day, this and that, and dudes understood what was really going on in the world and all that kind of shit, right? So, not just being a tomboy, but also trying to understand what life was like just in general. Like, this is what life is like for a man. Because that's kind of what life is like anyway, until you start putting these extra shit on it. Well, this is what life is like. Unless you're a girl, or unless you're black, or unless you're undocumented, or unless you're disabled, right? But, like, it all starts with, like, the base is the cis white male thing, right? That's why cis white male, until they demand I treat them otherwise. Until they demand special treatment. And that's what it is. Because, and this is one of the things I learned with the whole feminism thing, right? And then, you know, during that time when I was being educated, right, academically, was that we're all striving for equality, right? Like, egalitarian. They were calling it feminism, but, like, I later learned that it was, what I wanted was egalitarianism, I guess, you know, because we're all just the same, right? Because in my mind, that's equality. Okay, if we all are treated the exact same until you, person, and I'm gonna cuss, and I'm gonna say brah and dude, because that's just my default, right? Until you demand that I call you she, her, they, them, you know, don't use devil in my, you know, whatever, dude. Like, I'm just gonna be me and present as me, which is most comfortable to me, until you demand I treat you otherwise, right? Until you demand special treatment. Which I get, okay? I really do get. Even outside of the egalitarian thing is, and they really like their rank, okay? They may or may not have agency. That's the different story. But they like their rank and they want to be addressed as their rank. Okay, cool. Ma'am, sir, you know, don't call me sir, I work for a living, whatever, right? Like, I treat people exactly the same until they demand I treat them otherwise, right? And maybe not even demand, you know, there's like subtle cues and stuff, like social cues, right? And then we go, oh, okay, this person likes to be handled a little more gently. So, where was I? I'm trying to set some backstory here, guys. About boys and girls. So, back then, during that time, right, that I was working in the field and being more educated about, you know, I know you guys don't like this word, but I don't care, social justice, right? You know, we can think about it in here, but we don't really know. You know what I mean? I didn't know that, like, no, this really is the way it is, right? And there's an entire structure, there's a whole diagram of it, okay? All right. So I'm learning this stuff. Learning the words for the shit that I already know. Okay? But in my head, because I am more of a holistic person, okay? I really am. Because even as a small child, it was like, it's black and white. There is always more to the fucking story, okay? So I'm learning the stuff, right? But the stuff they end up teaching us is super fucked up, okay? And this is where it gets crazy. And man, I wish I had my notes. Okay, I had like notes like crazy. I would like when I was going to these school and stuff and all this education and work. I would take notes like you wouldn't believe because this stuff was fascinating to me. Because me, in my still naive head at 30 years old, I was still very young in the fucking head, very childlike in a way. But I thought if we could just find the common ground, right, that we could totally just like solve violence, right? That was still like, I really thought that. If you could see where I was coming from, right, and I could see where you were coming from, we would not have to throw hands, right? We would not have to throw down. We would not have to argue, we would just, we could live peacefully, okay? I know now that's not exactly the case for a lot of reasons, but bear with me. So at the time, I'm solutions-oriented, right? And again, at the time, I did not realize what the system was like. I mean, I kind of knew, because my parents taught me, and I kind of lived through it, but I assumed that my family was just a bunch of dirtbags, and that they were just making excuses, right? And that was true, but also, the system is super fucked up, right? But I didn't know that until, like, after going to this, like, education, during the, doing this work, and then when it happened to me, okay? Like, really happened to me. Because some shit was that fucked up. That the whole game was rigged. I had no idea. Okay? So. I wish I had my notes so bad. So many times I wish I had my notes. One of these days I'm going to call my girls that I used to work with and be like, hey man, do you still have all that notes from that training? Anyway. So, during that, okay, so I was I was working, okay, and being taught about the hierarchical structure of the patriarchy and blah, 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 okay, the intersectionality, okay, which is really strange because we were told at the time, because this was like right before Occupy Wall Street, like right before and during, and then after, but like definitely right before is when I was learning this shit. The intersectionality, and I learned it from the point of view of a domestic violence victim, okay? A woman also leaving this abusive relationship, because and we're not talking like, oh, he doesn't put the toilet seat down. We're really talking like, suspend your disbelief. We're really talking about like full-on DV shit, right? Power control, rape, physical abuse, whatever, okay? Because like that shit it's not just this one situation that happens, it's a pattern of behavior. The legal definition of domestic violence is totally different than what the actual definition is, okay? Because the actual definition is a pattern of behavior, of power and control, blah, blah, blah. As opposed to the legal definition is just, we lived together, we were fucking, we're brother and sister, we're family members, whatever, and we had an altercation. Boom, it automatic. Or there's other, again, I wish I had my notes, but there's all these different kinds of violence that happens within the domestic violence thing. Legally, domestic violence, right? But morally and ethically and reality-wise, it's a pattern of behavior, power control and whatever, right? As it uses all this other shit. Okay, so now I was raised by a very violent person. She was brought up in abuse, like full on, not just her parents, but like the brothers and sisters and stuff, right? Incest, the whole nine. Sorry, Uncle Mike, you're dead now. It doesn't matter, right? But like our entire family was just like total dirtbags, okay? And so here's my mother being the retard she is at 16, gets knocked up. Here I am, okay? I'm losing my train of thought. Recognized what was going on. I started to realize at the time. That my mother was violent. Like my mother was abusive. Okay, but also that she was being abused. Okay, because I saw all kind of shit growing up, but then she was like with my stepdad. And then she left him and got with this other guy, and then got back with my stepdad, right? But, like, in between, like, during that whole entire time, was handed to her, right? Like, just fucking throw down in the hospital, for no reason other than she looked at him wrong. Like, seriously, like, plenty of fucking ass whoopings my mom had coming, like, right? But, like, this one guy that she was married to for a hot minute, she did not have those ass whoopings coming. Not like that. And she was small. She was like a little bit taller than me, right? But like 110 pounds soaking wet. Always took care of herself. She played the game well, okay? But since she broke some of the rules before, now she's, with this guy who's like, 6'2", fucking construction worker, just would beat her ass within inches of her life, okay? But then I also, like I said, I got to see some other shit too, back and forth. But then I also got to see her start some fights. Like with my stepdad, right? And with other people, right? Like not that guy. I can't really say, even though he kind of was for a second there, but whatever. I didn't really recall her starting fights with him because she knew better, because he would fuck her up, okay? But with my stepdad, with other people, with family members, whatever, she would just start some shit and then be like, oh, what was me? Because at this point now she's already in the pattern of it, right? Because there's the pattern if you're the perpetrator, but then there's also a pattern if you are the victim. Holy shit, why is this happening to me? Like, I've done everything right and whatever. And then there's we're going to do this dance, right? And she was dancing, okay? So, but when they explained to us about violence against women, right? And domestic violence in particular, and the patterns of the behavior and whatnot, they do touch on the victim, right? And how sometimes we do this, sometimes we do that, sometimes we will just go ahead and do the trigger. And then I found out later that there's like chicks that like really, really know this shit, right? They would like really prepare for it, and they knew that he got home from work and that this shit was going to happen, so she would make sure they were out of ice, or whatever. So whatever she knew was going to fucking set him off, she would do it so that it would be a controlled burn. She could control it, right? It wouldn't just be like out of nowhere he flips out and just witnessed it. But now I'm seeing the actual academics of it, was that these people, these victims, would do not the same exact like abuse and stuff, but they would do manipulation, lying, starting the fights, whatever, right? All these things. I think that they call it not, which is a whole different thing, because then there's the addict part of that codependent behavior, right? But the models, they tell you shit completely different. Because, like, here you are being beaten up by your old man, right? He's got these power and control issues, right? And they tell you, in that model, they tell you, like, you do not cut that motherfucker any slack, okay? No. You hold him to account. You hold his feet to the fire. You did this. You're not getting away with it. Blah, 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 right? But the Al-Anon side of it, right? Like, drugs, whatever, right? That model tells you, and you're that codependent, right? The codependent of that addict. They tell you, go gray rock or whatever. Act like it doesn't bother you. Don't ever hold them to account. Don't ever say, hey, this hurt me. This is okay. Even though over here, when there's an abuse thing happening, right, or they're manipulating or playing or whatever, you're supposed to call them out every single time. That hurt me. Whatever you said just hurt me. The fact that you went out after work and didn't call me hurt me. Right? But if it's an alcoholic or an addict, you have to act like it didn't affect you at all, right? You basically no contact, even though you're right there, right? The fucking mixed messages are insane. Okay. The dynamics of the victim. Okay, because that was my job, is to help victims, right? And then do the generic safety planning shit and whatnot. And even then, the safety planning was don't fight in the kitchen. That's literally, don't fight around knives. That was it, dude. Take a different way to work. It was so frustrating. So frustrating. Okay. But in my head, the father figures in my life, my uncles, right, and they were all fucking abusive, everybody in my whole family. And then my mother, right? But now my mother is an abuser, right? And she kind of always has been to me because shit rolls downhill, right? That's why we take ourselves out of the abusive environment so that we don't pass that shit on to our kids, right? I'm gonna break the cycle. My mother would tell me that all the time, it's your job to break the cycle. Thanks, no pressure, right? Thanks, bitch. No pressure. It's my job to break the cycle. But I'm witnessing. Okay, but I'm also have to look at her through the lens of a victim, because she absolutely is, and always has been, but also has turned into the perpetrator. Okay. But now I'm watching this and I'm going, okay, I see the layers that have been put on her, right? To where she triggers that shit and starts these fights, and now and then she points the finger, okay? And she's not fucking special, dude. I've been witnessing bitches do, in my head, I'm why would you do that? Why? Why ruin a perfectly good day by, starting some shit? I mean, you start little shit, but, start serious shit. Anyway. So, in my head, I can see how this happened to, my mother, for instance, right? And at the same time, I can also see how this happened to my husband at the time, okay? Because we met when we were 18, okay? And I also knew other boys that became men during the same time, that we met when we were 15 and 16 and 17, okay? And we grew up together. And kids, and, we moved in together and moved out, and, from, 15 to 40, okay? I watched people grow up, men and women, right? I watched these people grow up. And I watched them go from, one wondrous children to these either shitbag manipulators or, full-on violent, abusive people, right? But that shit doesn't happen in a vacuum, okay? About victims and how victims operate and how we're supposed to, treat victims, right? Because they were, they have all this shit put on them, but then we're supposed to be the safe place for them to come in and say, okay, this stuff happened and it's all my fault, and we're supposed to be no, it's not your fault. Nobody's supposed to do this to another person. The person you love is definitely not supposed to be whooping on your ass, and that's just obvious, but still, people need to hear it, right? But, so while we're learning about the victims and how they, right, they cut them in this education, these academics, they cut the victims, all the slack, right? All this slack. And we're supposed to, give them all this leeway because they've been under so much bullshit, so much pressure and so much abuse and this and that, right? Which is totally true. Dude, cut me some slack, okay? I get it. It's totally true. It's psychologically, if you know anything about psychology, this shit is real, okay? And it's very much similar to the addict brain, the way that thoughts go through the different parts of how those messages go through the brain and where they get stopped at and hung up and why they end up using whatever. Like, if you take that same shit and apply it to an unhealthy cycle, it's literally the same shit, right? But we don't want to talk about that, right? Like, academia doesn't want to talk about that because then we have to take responsibility for it, right? And then we can't just say, oh, it's a disease or whatever. And it is a disease, right? Anyway, that's a tinfoil Tuesday shit. But whatever. All right. So here I am, right? I'm trying to, like, fix the whole fucking world. And I'm learning about how, you know, victims become shitty manipulators, but... So in my head, I'm thinking this shit, right? And I'm, like, putting it all together. And then I'm going to my mentors at the time and my teachers and, you know, all these people. And I'm like, okay, but if we're going to cut these victims some slack for what happened because of the stuff that happened before then, right? Because, you know, context is everything, right? Then why aren't we cutting the perpetrators any slack? Because they also, like, went through the exact same cycle, okay? So are we only cutting people slack if they win the fight, right? Are we only cutting people slack if they're not trying to control the other person for an ego reason? Or, like, there was just no consistency in it, okay? On the ground, right? Hopefully this is making some sense. I'm getting a little, not completely off track, but I'm getting a little off track. That was my biggest problem, my first problem with learning about all that and the pattern of the cycle of violence. And then who is accountable, right? Because it may be, okay, because now I'm experiencing with my husband and I was like, no, I cannot turn out like my mother, like, we have to fix this. And she told me, beat it in my head, it's my job to fix it. Okay, well, we're gonna fix it. I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna be the fucking hero, right? Because y'all know Captain Save a Homie, right? I'm gonna learn how to do this. So I'm like, you know, dove into the books, and then all of a sudden now I got the job there, and now I'm like, you know, getting seriously schooled and educated. Well, now I want to know it all. Because I want to save not only, like, myself and my marriage and my life, but I want to, like, okay? And so that none of us have to follow in the same footsteps. Yeah. But, so that's what I was saying. That was my very first problem with the whole DV thing. Was that, like, I knew, yes, by that time, like, he had put his hands on me already. Like, people don't just, like, have a great relationship and all of a sudden one day just pop off and whoop your ass, right? Like, there's groomy things that happen up until then, right? And then, too, if you know anything about all this shit, you realize that there's toxic, unhealthy behaviors, okay? That we all fucking have. That we all have, right? Red flags, if you will, right? We all have red flags. None of us is perfect, okay? Because you can have somebody, you know, your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever, that does this dumb shit, and it's toxic, right? It's manipulative, it's unhealthy, whatever. But that does not mean that they are... That does not mean that they are an abuser just because they have had moments of manipulation or, you know, whatever, toxic behavior, okay? Just fucking... Look at that. That's crazy. Okay. However, so there was a time in the midst of this learning, right, where I got super ball busty, okay? I got pretty fucking hardcore feminist on the whole thing, and I admit that all the time, right? There was a time when I really did think that if you were exhibiting any kind of red flag, then, you know, you needed help, right? You were an abuser, and, like, that wasn't okay. You know, I didn't really get that until a little bit later that, you know, that pendulum swinging, whatever, right? But there was definitely time when I thought that any kind of microaggression, right? I was a tone policer, like, everything that we hate about those guys, that was me. For a minute. Not too long, but for a minute. But I was balls to the wall because I thought, like, I really was trying to save the world, right? And I thought that, well, if I can just understand this and I can explain it to you, you'll understand it, and then you won't do that to someone else, okay? But guess what? That's not how that works. Context is important, okay? And so is nuance, okay? So, I gotta regroup. This is getting a little long. I started getting a lot of shit, okay, when I really, like, once I, like, got in there, right, and understanding. So that's when I started pushing back and saying, okay, but what if? Okay, but what if this? And what about that? And, you know, and that's the first time I got to push back. People, big wigs and stuff from, like, you know, Washington State Coalition Against Domestic Violence, you know, USCDF, whatever, all of them, right? Because then we also started learning about perpetrator treatment as well, right? And in my head, I'm thinking, well, if we could just, like, bridge that gap, right? Bridge the gap between my mother, for instance, and my husband. My mother and her husband, you know. Because it was in her ex-husband, the one that would beat her within an inch of her life, are on the same spectrum at polar opposites. Not complete opposites like good and evil, but like polar opposites, as in, what is that, like impulsivity is just spontaneity, right? But like impulsivity is not really good, but spontaneity is fine, right? Like the polar opposites. But nobody wanted to touch on that. Like, I would just be, like, going balls to the wall on it, right? And they were just like, It was because, like, they have the state, basically, and the powers that be, call it the patriarchy if you want, but whoever, the powers that be in the state has an incentive to keep that shit separated, okay? To keep, you know, victims up here and perpetrators down here, which is really funny because in the real world, victims are way the fuck down here. Oh, you're gonna act like a victim? We're gonna treat you like one. Like, that's going to be a wake-up call for these kids that are doing the victimhood thing. Because in the real fucking world, like, and that's just that, okay? You're not allowed to be a victim. You're not allowed to say, hey, I was harmed by this person. You know, that's why there's a whole lot of more fucking other mental health diagnoses, like depression and anxiety, as opposed to, like, PTSD. And then most of it really is PTSD because it was shit that happened to them that made them react like this. But I can't blame it on another person because then I'm a fucking victim and now the system is going to treat me like one, right? Okay. But here's the fucked up part. Here is the fucked up part about that whole thing, right? That whole been victimized. Like, you were just like P's and Q's, dotting your I's, crossing your T's, but you still got your ass beat or whatever, right? I'm a victim now, okay? Now, that fucking DV world want you to be this kind of fucking victim. That's it. You have to fit into this fucking box. I will go get a box if you want me to show you. You have to fit into that box if you want us to treat you with this These kids, we're gonna throw you in the fucking garbage, and that's literally what happens to most of us. Okay. And that's like where I separated personally from all that shit, because like it took me a long time to get it, but when I finally got it, I was like, whoa, wait a second. I'm not allowed to like take credit for or take responsibility for, or I'm not allowed to take accountability for any of the shit that I've done. Because no matter what I did, he shouldn't have hit me. Which is true. If like, I don't care if I'm a guy or a girl, like, you just shouldn't. That's why we have like, weight classes in boxing, right? That's why we used to have men's and women's sports, right? Because it's not a fair fight, okay? And if you are going to use your power, your physical power, to like totally beat down somebody that's smaller than you, when you could just like push them or like hold them or like walk away or whatever, but you're gonna like beat them within an inch of their life, that's fucked up. We all know that, okay? If they're coming at you, watch my mother be that fucking spider monkey, right? So in my head, they're telling me this, but I'm like, but I've witnessed something totally different, and I've lived it my entire fucking life. And most of you bitches are just like this academia, right? Like you've never even experienced, you never witnessed, much less experienced this shit. But I have, but I'm wrong. Because I don't know what I'm talking about, because I don't have the letters by my name and whatnot, right? Whatever. That's retarded. If you're not fitting into that box, nobody in that world that helps victims is going to take care of you. They're not going to help you because you didn't fit into that box. And that box entails being a victim all the fucking time. All the time. Forever. For the rest of your fucking life. About everything. And you have to keep being that person. Picture you're me, right? And you've grown up in this fucked up situation forever, right? And now it's your job to change the cycle, right? And now you have the chance because now, like, you're even employed, right? And you're getting this free education and stuff. Like, yeah, let's do this shit, right? But then it's also happening to you, right? And you know that you need power and control over your own. You need agency. We need agency. And this is some of the shit they taught me this shit, right? But I didn't know I had agency. But then I'm like, well, I do, and I know what that is, and it makes sense now. It's all clicked, right? But I'm not allowed to use that agency ever again. Now that I'm a victim, now that I've like made that claim, I'm never allowed to use that again. I'm never allowed to say, yes, this happened, but I should have not done this, or I should have done this, or whatever it is, right? Oh, no. Well, now you're just a perpetrator. But I'm not, okay? Like, you're not. That part of being a victim. Everything is done to us. Nothing ever happens because we were at the wrong place, or we made a bad choice and got there. It's always this thing that happened to us. Now, this is true. Part of that is true, because literally, I should be able, as a grown adult human being in the year of our Lord 2024, to walk down to the fucking store at this late hour. Not that correct, right? Like anybody else should. A man would be able to, okay? And if a man did that and got jumped on the way, I'd be like, oh man, that's fucked up. Crime is out of control, right? But if a woman does it, yeah, well, you shouldn't have been walking out late at night anyway. You know better than that. That's kind of fucked up. However, on the flip side of that, this is the reality that we live in. That world out there, there are predators, there are rapists, there are muggers, there are scammers everywhere out there. Every single place, not every single place, but they are out there. There are certain, when you go on vacation, right? When you go on vacation to fucking Mazatlan, right? They tell you, keep your wallet in your bag or in your sock or in your front pocket, you know what I mean? Like, or in your bra, like keep your money somewhere because this place is it's a tour. There's nothing wrong with telling somebody, hey man, this touristy place is a place where people like to steal from tourists. So you should take precautions. Knowing this information, you should safety plan around that and take precautions and put them, somewhere else other than just your back pocket, your inside pocket, whatever, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But as soon as you tell a girl, hey, you probably, just so you know, walking around at night gives you an extra... That's ridiculous to me. And I ran into so many problems with these bitches at that time doing that. When they were telling me this, it's like, well, yeah, men shouldn't rape. Absolutely. But there's nothing wrong with telling a woman, hey man, these are the situations where you are at higher risk of getting raped. Why is it any different than telling a tourist going to somewhere else that, hey, these parts of town is where you're going to have to put all your boxes outside because then the criminals are going to know what you got for Christmas, right? But it's, it's not okay to tell a chick not to, like, post her shit online, like her boobs and whatnot. You see what I'm saying? It just makes no sense. And that's where that bullshit comes in at about that box. Is that, like, we're not allowed to tell women anything about these in this society, okay? Because it's fucking sexist or whatever, right? That just blows my mind. That blows my mind. That will forever blow my fucking mind. But they can't, because that's how they create perpetual victims, and the state needs perpetual victims. The state needs people who refuse to take any responsibility for themselves and any accountability for putting themselves in a fucked up... Yes, you literally should be able to walk down the street with just taxes where that should be the case, right? But the thing is, we don't live in that fucking world. Yes, you should be able to. But is it the smartest thing to do? Probably not. Why? Because of the risks. There's risks. Don't get in your car and drive 115 miles an hour down I-5, swerving in and out of traffic. You can. You have every right to. I mean, it's against the law, but you still have a right to, right? Like, you have a right to do anything you fucking want. Well, that's what happens. Like, you took that risk, right? This shit is infuriating. Okay, so this all ties into some shit. Kind of. It was prompted by the Twitter war with the boys, the Goon Squad, right? Because they were all up in arms. They were all up in arms because I don't want to accept the liability, so I don't want to be involved in that. Like, if he wasn't the one running the thing, I'm sure he would have said, like, about somebody else's thing, hey, probably not the best idea for you to do this alone, okay? But people just went after this guy. And there was a time, like, way back then, when I was getting all this education and shit, that I would have been like, oh, how dare you infantilize me as a woman by saying that I can't take care of myself, or how dare you, like, why are you hanging out with rapists? He's not hanging out with rapists. Let you know a little secret. We all fucking hang out with rapists. Look around. Look around. Look at statistics. Talk to your friends. Find out what happened, okay? If you believe your friends, you trust these people in your life, you will find out that there's a lot of fucking rapists out there. There are a lot of fucking predators. There are so many predators. And there's people that, like, used to be predators that aren't anymore. There's people that were never predators but are now, okay? You just never fucking know. And to have a man, like, that's a fucking huge thing, dude. Huge. Like, that's a whole different fucking subject there, man. That culture of silence about the bro code, about we don't ever talk about other dudes, even the girls, even the victims, because that box, remember that victim box I was talking about earlier? We will protect you if you stay in that victim box. If you stay in that victim box, you're allowed to say anything you want about any man. But if you're not going to stay in that perfect victim box, and you like status, you know, but you have to stay in that victim box. And I never did anything wrong. Everything else is someone else's fault. You know, I had every right to do every single thing that I did, you know, and never, like, considering the humanity of another person. Like, you have to consider all my humanity as a victim, but we can never consider the humanity of anybody else. Even if you watch that person go from a fucking child, right? So it blows my mind, dude. Blows my fucking mind. Anywho. It's one of them talks we should have been having for a long time now. But I didn't really know how to address it. And I still think that the onus is on the perpetrators. You know, rape and violence against women, you know. Yes, the onus is on the men to be better. Absolutely. And the onus is on the other men to patrol their men and be like, dude, you gotta be better. You can't, you know, shame, name, whatever. Like, because we can't all do it, because when we do it, we're just crazy, right? When we say, hey, man, this person did this shit to me, they're like, are you sure? Like, you know, did he really? You know. So, that does need to be exactly just like, you, in the news, I know the news likes to hype shit up, but whatever. There's been quite a few of these trans people that are actually predators, right? Like, being called out and, like, caught being predators, right? But then, when we say, hey, man, we're worried about this because of these predators pretending to be... Predators have always pretended to be gay and, you know, trans or whatever, just to throw a community under the bus, right? Because I'm gay. It is on... We can call, you know, I mean, I don't really know if I really count because, you know, I'm kind of gay, but whatever. But, like, the straight people can call them out, yeah, but that's not going to do much. But if the other trans people call out those predators, dude, knock that shit off. Like, that's what's going to help that situation, right? So, conversely, that's what's going to help men, is good men calling out bad men. Just the same thing, holding their feet to the fire, like, no, we don't do this. We are law enforcement, right? We don't do this. We're supposed to be the good guys. Instead of, okay, we'll just look the other way and, you know, I'll just get my paycheck or whatever. It is never going to be your average citizen, you know, or even the ones who got fucked over by the cops, right? The bad cops. Not the, you know, like, if you did the crime, you do the time, right? But, like, shitty cops that do framing and, you know, all that other kind of organized crime but they're not going to get anywhere, right? It's going to be the other good cops that calling out the bad cops that's going to make a fucking difference. So, it's going to be the good men that call out the bad men to say, hey, to make a difference, you know. And the fact that a dude, like, that's just, to me, that's super cool, man. Like, you know, and I'm not, like, I don't hang out with a lot of lefties, obviously, because they don't like me, because I'm a fucking Nazi, right? But I don't... Conversations with them when I did about why don't boys call each other out, right? Why the culture of silence, the bro code, right? The bro code, like literally, like you're not allowed to say shit about your homeboys, dude. Even if you know they're fucking full-on predators, you're not allowed to say that shit, or else you're gonna be out the club. And membership has its privileges, right? I don't know. That to me, that's a big fucking deal. That a dude would just like straight up say, well, the dude got so much shit for it too. I'm sure I'm not putting dude on a pedestal, right? I'm sure he's the fucking knuckle dragger just like everybody else, right? Like everybody got their baggage, but that part was fucking awesome, man. It was totally fucking awesome. That he would like say that right out fucking loud. They're like, dude, some dudes are fucking assholes, man. And yeah, he like touched on the Me Too thing, but even then, like, that shit happens. It fucking happens. And that was one of the things that I was trained in to always fight back on was you're never, ever, ever allowed to talk about the false allegations. Because the actual victims. And that is true, like, whatever. The point is, false allegations absolutely happen. I've seen it. I've seen it from so many fucking people, dude. So many people. So many people. And it's like, why would you do that? Like, that's fucked up. And me being like an actual victim, like over and over again, I'm like, how could you do that? Like, dude, girls have called some shit out, and I was like, no way, because at the time, way back then, when I was younger, I was like, nobody else would lie about such a thing, right? And now here I am, I'm like fucking taking off, fucking pulling off the press-on nails. I'm ready to fucking throw down with these boys, right? Like, from a guy. Yeah. Because I'm like ready to fucking, I'm like attacking this guy, because nobody else would, right? And there's no way she would have lied. But then, we find out, like, no, that was just a situation. Fuck. Man. That shit's crazy to me, man. Shit's crazy to me. Anyway, I think it was cool. I think it was cool as fuck that dude called that out like that. I'm a little bummed. Not that I could have afforded to actually go do that sort of thing, but like, I need to learn how to be a man, right? Like, I am not allowed to be a woman in this world. Really. I'm getting a little bit better about it. But I don't, I don't fall into that box now, right? Like, I can't be having your kids for you. Sorry. Not sorry. I can only make so many sandwiches, right? And I'm not a slave. I'm not a servant. I'm not believing equality, right? And there's some other spiritual implications, but that's beside the point. I fully believe in equality. And I fully believe, when I say I believe in equality, I believe that people are equal but not the same. That's a different situation too. I do believe there's fundamental differences between the male and female brains. But I also believe that there are many men who have more female brains, and there are many females that have more male brains. But I know this. I've been a prepper since like 2010, 11, right? Like, actively. And then, of course, I lost all my shit because, whatever. So I can't say that I'm like a prepper at heart, but not in practice because, I'm poor. But, being a prepper, like, would mean to just, like, prepare, right? And be shows. I'm not ready for the fucking apocalypse, that's for damn sure. But I would like to be. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, I am one of those women that does not have a man around, a male chaperone, right? I have my son, like, and he's not the man of the house, right? That's just wrong to put that on him, right? But as far as, that's the only man I have around in my life, him. It's also my job to teach him some shit, Dad's job to teach him some other shit that he's slacking on, but that's beside the point. And fuck going and fighting with Dad about, like, you should be teaching him this shit. Because, Dad's got his own head up his own ass so far. Then okay, fine. I have had to learn how to be a man. How to man up in this world. Because nobody was coming to save me, right? I learned that one. And then I really fucking learned it. Like, read my writing on the wall. Nobody's here to catch me when I fall, right? I learned that shit. And I know that my son needs to know this shit because he's also going to be that guy. My daughters, a little bit different because they're girls. And they're like girly girls. So they might have, somebody to catch them when they fall, right? But I don't. My son doesn't, because nobody's going to be there to catch you, right? And sometimes those motherfuckers that are there to catch you, you don't want them, right? But, I can't put that on her because then she gets mad that I'm paranoid. Anyway. So that part bugs me. And it makes me mad that is the case. That I still have to be weary of a bunch of strangers, a bunch of strange men, and if you got all head in the fucking bus, just at a fucking AA meeting, just at the fucking doctor's office. Like, I've been in some situations that were like unfucking believable, shit that like you read in books. Okay. So the idea of like going and hanging out with other dudes that are trying to like learn how to be better, right? And like survive after some shit goes. Odds are those guys probably aren't that guy. And look, man, look at me. That ain't happening. But they don't know that. They don't. I'm a little bit anonymous. Not really. Not after the other day, but I'm a little anonymous on Twitter, so people don't know that I'm an old fat lady, not some fucking 25-year-old princess. It's like, oh, show me a gun. Oh my god. I just want to survive. But shit can get really, really, really crazy. And ain't nobody there to catch me when I fall. It's such a bummer, though, that whole, like, oh, nobody's coming to save you. Unless you're cute. Then somebody will. Like, okay, but I'm not. Anyway, what were we talking about again? I hope we're not having, like, costs at restream or stream or nothing. And nobody's chatting, too. That's so awesome. That means I got to say all that shit without being distracted. Being a girl sucks, dude. It sucks so much. I mean, it's, like, kind of fun. There's some really cool stuff about it, but, man. It also really sucks. It super sucks because, like, I'm like, okay, so, like, I fit all this criteria of being a guy, right? Of being a man, right? I'm on my own. There's whatever. All the cliches that are out there. And if I was, like, a worthless fucking human or something, I would be like, yeah, it doesn't matter. I should just, it doesn't matter. I shouldn't worry about surviving. I'm pretty fucking cool. Not the most attractive hoe on the block, but, I'm fucking cool. I got some wisdom and shit. I, put some money into the economy. Whatever. Being a chick sucks is what I'm saying. Being a chick sucks. It sucks in this world anyway. it kind of sucked in that role too. I was just going through the motions, right? Like trying to fit into the girl box, you know? I'm like, oh, I've never been pretty, so I might as well try to be pretty, right? So I did the makeup and the hair and the clothes and the nails and the whatnot. And it felt good, don't get me wrong. That's good. It's good stuff. Self-care is like really important. And it did like perpetuate, you know, like you feel good. Then, you know, I would like exercise and I was going to dance classes and like really getting into my whole womanhood thing. But and not just like homeless, but like friendless as well. You know, being in the world completely alone. Like it's hard to be out there in the world and still be soft, right? I'm pretty sure we've had this conversation before. Because I was crying about like how do I gangster up basically and still be the soft person that like my kids need, right? But it's not even just about them, because like just in a few more years they're not gonna, you know. So like how do I stay soft for myself, you know? So there was this thing that I had a mentor, right? Her name was Billy, and she was the director at this TV place that I ended up working for, right? She was this really cool old native lady, right? Not old, she's older. She's old now, but she wasn't, you know, she was older than me. But very spiritual, you know. Whereas she like got both of the sides, and she understood like the divine feminine and the divine masculine, as opposed to the academia of the other chicks in the field that were like ball busters, like super ball busters, you know. This chick really like helped me learn all that. But then like, you know, she helped me learn that shit because we were very similar. But then when it came down to it, and I was like, okay, hey, like I need this help here, speeding me, right? I have to be loyal to the agenda. And that's what she did, you know, eventually. But at least she was not always. You know, she didn't go and get that loyalty until like the bitter end, until like her life was in danger, right? But that's a different story. But she would teach me, she taught me then, was that, and she taught me this when I was still just a client, right? Before I even considered going to work for them. That we're born soft, right? We're born into this nurturing being, you know, this soft person for a reason, you know? Like, we're awesome because, like, that's where I was totally at spiritually at the time, right? About balance and whatnot. And one of the things that I learned from her was that women, for instance, will be, you know, we come out, you know, we're girls, we grow up, and now we're learning how to be girls, right? And we're in our little girl box. But then if we get into this shitty cycle of abuse, right? And we get beat down enough, brains and, you know, or whatever, and we will, like, there's a physiological component that happens, but then there's also the conditioning part that happens, right? Which goes back to what I was saying before, how I would bind and cut my hair short and all this stuff to try not to look like a girl so that I would not be a target, right? Oh shit, somebody called the fuzz. But she would, you know, she was telling me how girls can mimic being a man, right? They will start to, you know, quit wearing dresses and start wearing pants more often and start wearing boots and cut their hair short, and just so that it's to adapt to the situation, right? And I watched that happen Like you don't feeling goes, and things are kind of like out of our reach because we're all into like right here, right now in reality, and then we're all into this agenda shit too now, right? And luckily for her, you know, that agenda shit didn't really start happening until she retired, right? Because, you know, they would have fucking crucified her too. Even though she was 100% right. Like, she's totally right. Right? Like, after shit really hit the fan, right? And I had to be like, literally out here in the world alone. Where, like, that's just safety, you know? Like, reality is safety. Like, if you're walking down the street, like, not even walking down the street, it is easier to have access to your areas, okay? Easy, because they just go like, whoosh, whoosh, right? But if you have pants on, and boots, or shoes, or whatever, right, like, tied up sneakers, like, you gotta really, like, work to get access to that area, correct? That's just reality. That's just logic. Full-on logic. So, yes, I love dresses. Oh my god, I love dresses so much. You guys let me know how much I love dresses. I just ordered 2 dresses, which they should be here, but they're not. In a fucking dress. While you're homeless. Like, you just can't. Like, that's not a good idea. I mean, you could, but reality dictates that, like, you're going to get a label of some kind that you don't want, number one. And number two, you're going to, probably number two, but whatever. And you're going to be a target. Because look at that easy access, right? So, if you're in that world to where you are not allowed to be safe, then you need to find a way. You don't make yourself look feminine. I was up on the bridge one night, right? Up on this overpass, hanging some banners. And first the guy drives up on a motorcycle and was like, "Hey, you looking for a date?" I'm like, "Nope, not the one, son." Alright, cool. And he takes off. Nice, right? That's literally hanging a fucking banner about human trafficking, which is super ironic, but whatever. And then this other guy comes up, right? Like, but he's walking, right? And he walks right up to me, because he's going, you know, all the way, like, tape and banners and whatnot, right? And I can't remember exactly how the conversation started, but he was like, "Hey, you know, what's up and what's good?" And I'm like, "Oh, you know, I'm just doing this. And I'm trying to be cool because, you know, I'm a fucking freak and I'm, like, anxious and whatnot." But then he, like, asked me for a hug, right? And here's the safety planning. Like, in your head, in my head, your shit's going a million miles a minute, right? If I get into any kind of confrontation with this motherfucker, I could be going, "Oh, we have to be nice to this person and not cause any confrontation." Safety planning. Safety planning 101, right? So I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay, cool." And I give him a hug, right? Give him a hug. And as I'm pulling away, he tries to go in for a kiss, and I, like, you know, duck out of it, like, you know, and like, "Ha ha ha." You know, as opposed to, like, "What, motherfucker, don't you dare." You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Because that's, like, really what I want to do, because of my ball busting. "Hey, I'm a fucking girl out here in the middle of the night. Why you walking up on me? Why you not being a fucking gentleman?" Why? Because they're not. Okay? I cannot expect the man in the middle of the night on the fucking overpass over I-5 to be a gentleman. Okay? Why? Because that's the fucking world we live in. Okay? But anyway, so I graciously dodge his kiss, right? And back off and create some space between us. And he said, "Oh yeah, you are a female." Because I didn't start fighting with him. "Oh, Marie, you're saying that's what we're supposed to do. Because had that been my mother up there on the overpass, not that she would have done that, but she has been many a time out there in the fucking world just walking, because she crisscrossed this country fucking 100 times, okay? 101 times. And I know she's encountered these people because she has a million stories, right? But had that been her, for instance, and that guy tried to or whatever, first she would have like called him a racial slur and pushed him away in the first place, even when he went in for the hug, or would have been like, leave me the fuck alone, right? Boom, confrontation. Okay? Is that in his mind, that's a man. Because the world does that to us. Are you a man or are you a woman? They do the same thing with the men, the boys. Are you a girl? Are you going to be like a girl? Are you going to behave like a girl? Oh, are you going to cry? Are you going to say no? Are you chicken? Right? They do that to both of us. Like, the world does that, especially the prison planet part of our world, right? Like that. People don't know what that's like until you're out there on the fucking world that it is online, right? Totally different fucking worlds. But that is, oh man, I really wish I could find like a perfectly concise way to explain that part. That right there. You are a female. Because I didn't fight him. You know what I mean? Because I was gracious about saying, I do not want you in my bubble, but I'm going to let you for safety reasons, but I'm going to jump out real quick, right? And I fully believe that that's what homeboy on Twitter was talking about. Not necessarily just what he's worried about. That guy who's still stuck in that bullshit. The boxy people. Maybe, if that's what we're going to call them. I don't know. You'll call them that for the day, I guess. Man, sorry, we got some action going on out here. But I bet, like, that he knows that, right? We all know this shit. We just don't talk about it. That's part of the culture of silence. That's why it blows my mind that he even said, hey, man, some boys be rapey. Well, yeah, some boys be rapey. What is it? 1 in every 3 chicks have been raped? 1 in every 4? Girls are allowed to because we're allowed to fit into that victim box. Boys are never allowed to fit into that victim box. Ever. That's a whole different story for a whole other time. Anyway. Should have called this one Pakistani Gender Studies, huh? Anywho. Got me mad. Got me mad. But man, I remember being that guy. Everybody that was pissed off about, we shouldn't be mitigating the damage. We should be changing the culture. Yes, we absolutely should be changing the culture. Men should not walk up behind me and tap me and ask me for a cigarette. Dude, walk up in front of me. Like, you got your headphones on, right? You're in the bus stop because you don't want to listen to everybody's schizo spam, right? For another human being, not just for a girl, have respect for me as a man and walk up to me and ask me for a fucking cigarette. You don't be, like, sneaking up on me, tapping. Like, you don't do that. I don't think men should be approaching women in parking lots either. Like, I just don't. I just don't think that's okay. Like, I mean, in a perfect world, sure, why not? But we don't live in a perfect world. Like, but even that, at least, even like the approaching in a park, cool, that's equality. I bet you $1 million, the guy who did that to me this morning, literally this morning at the bus stop, and just barely tapped me too. Like, I thought it was just like a muscle twitch. Like, but I didn't say anything because, I don't want the confrontation. I'm just trying to go to work. I don't want my fucking whole day to be, started off on that kind of note, But bro, there's no way he would have done that to a man, And also people do that. Anyway, I was going somewhere with that and I forgot. I wish people treated me the same as I treat them. As far as I treat everybody like a man, and I treat everybody the same until they demand I treat them otherwise. That was one of the ways I learned that about how spent any time online until just very, last couple of years. Like, I really didn't. I mean, I did, like, Facebook and shit, but it was, like, my friends, right? But as far as, like, meeting strangers and becoming friends or whatever, or friendly, I didn't do that. But when I did, I found myself interacting with the women in a different way than I would interact with the men. And that sucks, because I don't like that. I don't like when people treat me different because I'm a girl. And I know that you can, go for it. If that's what you like. I don't like that. I don't like the let's be a cocksucker to you just because you're a girl who wants to be treated normal, like everybody else, but you're not a cocksucker to anybody else. Just me. That's not being equal. That's being a cocksucker just to teach you a lesson. That's a whole different story. We don't usually have cops pull up people right over here, but we do tonight. I would show you, but you don't need to see that. I wonder if we're going to see a Rodney King situation. That'd be hilarious. Like a live stream that shit. Anyway. Now, so I'm like really curious. Kinda hate being that guy. I don't like listening to the scanner either because I'm like, Anyway. Sucks being a chick. That's my whole point. Maybe if I was like really cute and really compliant, it might be better for me. I don't know. I definitely didn't have to be born a girl. None of you guys want to be fucking compliant and sweet all the fucking time. Fucking who does, dude? We go on a whole rant about how the same dudes that don't like the government treating them like children want to treat their women like children. Because, control is good for children, okay? But if you want to, be with a person that is an adult, and maybe they don't know what you know, right? Maybe they don't know. Okay, then you should teach them. Okay? Ooh, but then, just like the government, nobody's gonna give you the... Even though, I don't want to overthrow no men. I want to overthrow the government. Hey, let me know when y'all are ready for that, because I'm down. But, I do not want to usurp some other man's power, is my point, right? I didn't even want to usurp my husband's power, okay? Because, I wanted a leader of a family, the leader of a family, not the authority of a family, because there was no need for him to be we together were the authority of the family, right? But he wanted to be the authority. I was looking at him as a leader. I even put that trad dress on, so to speak, because I knew that I was a fucking retard. He got stupid. He got sick. But I never wanted to usurp his power. I just wanted to have the same... We were partners, right? That was what was sold to me. That's what I wanted to buy. And I got scammed. But I think he got scammed too. But that's a whole different situation. A whole different story. Because I think he got scammed. I know he got scammed. But yeah, I don't want to usurp man's power at all. I was like, I want to be just like those guys. I want to be in this world. I want to survive in this world as long as I can. And then teach my kids the stuff that they need to know to also survive in this world and to not be subjugated and whatnot, right? But some people think that, like, just if you want access to their knowledge or access to their resources, take them down. It's like, bro, I don't want to take you down. I just want to get by like the next guy. I want to get by like you, you know? But I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl. I fucking hate being a girl, man. Oh well. Anyway, this has been Pakistani gender studies, like, about the dangers. It's okay to warn your homeboy about the pickpockets when he goes to Mexico. Okay? It's okay to warn the girls that boys are fuckers sometimes. And not just that they're fuckers, but that they're also powerful. Do you see this cat? Do you see her? Do you see her? She needs to be usurped. She needs to be taught a lesson. George? She needs to be taught a lesson. Get it? That's funny. It's okay. It's okay to warn the people about the risks. It's also good to teach your motherfuckers not to be motherfuckers. Okay? It's also good to learn about consent and whatnot. And it's hump day, so hey. Alright, bitches.